I sat across from Lisa at their favorite cozy cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. I started the conversation that I always wanted to start for the last 1 year. Lisa, I've been thinking a lot about us and our future lately. Lisa looked at me with a questioning look. I've been wondering, when do you think is the right time for us to start a family? It's a big decision, isn't it? I mean, we've got our careers, travel plans, and all. She put forth her hesitations. It has been 9 years that we have been married and financially we are stable, and at 30 years old, you are not getting any younger. The clock is ticking, she nodded. I know the clock is ticking. Okay, let's go ahead with it. Lisa and I met shortly after I graduated from college. She worked at a cafe I frequented on my way to work. I was immediately smitten, but couldn't muster up the courage to ask her out until a few months later. We hit it off, and a year later, I proposed. Our wedding was a small destination ceremony in Florida, surrounded by a few family members and close friends. Things seemed perfect. Lisa had dreams of opening her own cafe, and together we saved money towards that goal. We decided to postpone having children until we achieved a bit more stability. After 6 years, we had saved enough to buy a fixer-upper, abandoned by its previous owner. It took a year to fix it up and another year to slowly furnish and equip it. Finally, we opened our cafe. Soon enough, the cafe flourished, and we had to hire extra staff to keep up with the increasing demand. While I worked in it, my wife Lisa primarily managed the business. We always had something to fall back on if the cafe wasn't successful. I'd check up on her in the afternoons, and she would often stay at the shop for up to 2 hours after closing, handling cleaning, accounting, and other responsibilities. Occasionally, I'd lend a hand and we'd head home together. Everything was going smoothly until about a year and a half ago, with the cafe established and turning a profit. It was time to start a family, so I had this conversation with her. A month passed, but I never saw her telling me about her fertile period or initiating any intimacy with me. Not that I had not tried to initiate intimacy. I did get some nights, but I am not sure if that was successful. It was more of a chore rather than actually trying to make love or someone trying to have a baby. After a month, I was concerned. I got myself tested for potency and the results were good. I was fine and my sperm count was good enough for a pregnancy. I had received at least 2 promotions and was making decent money, enabling me to afford good health care. I suggested she see a doctor to ensure she was fit for pregnancy, but she declined. I was a bit confused and I was getting restless. Was there anything that I am not aware of, or was Lisa really not interested in having a baby? She did agree to it, but her actions show that she is not interested. So like a concerned spouse, I had another round of a serious conversation. I was having my coffee at the breakfast table and Lisa walked in. I am someone who doesn't like to beat around the bush, so I shot a straight question. Are we going to start a family? I have been putting in the effort, but unfortunately, I do not find any effort from your side. If there is anything that you want to discuss, it is the time. Lisa sat down. If I get pregnant, who is going to take care of the cafe? You have your job. I know you do help at the cafe, and it helps, but once I am out, I am afraid it will just fall apart. We can hire someone. Everyone does it. Even if you get pregnant, it's only after 6 months that you need to be taking a lot of rest. You can hire someone and groom that person for a few months and then take a break. Every working woman who plans a child gets a break. You will be no exception. Besides, if required, I can leave my job and concentrate on the cafe full-time. Either you tell me that you do not want a child, I'll never raise this topic ever again. I was precise and clear as to what I wanted. She nodded and said she would look into it and agreed to try for a baby again. However, a month passed and she never brought up the topic again. Concerned, I decided to bring it up during a drive home from the cafe. To my surprise this time, she became defensive and accused me of not considering her feelings. She thought I was trying to take away her dream of running the cafe by suggesting she become a mother. You agreed to this. I reminded her. There were no more conversations. I was very unhappy, not because she was not agreeing with me, but because she agreed and now backing out. I even agreed to leave my job, but that was also rejected. I noticed a pattern where I was always open to compromise, but Lisa seemed less willing to meet me halfway. I dropped everything to help her pursue her dreams, putting in extra shifts and overtime to contribute financially. There were times I wanted something for myself, but I chose to forego it to save money for her dreams. However, she wasn't as willing to make sacrifices. A week later, during dinner, she surprised me by expressing a willingness to try. Ecstatic, we started trying right away. However, after 4 months with no success, it was disheartening. I decided to take proactive steps, and once again, I went to the doctor for a checkup, including a sperm count analysis. Fortunately, my work benefits covered a few free checkups per year. The doctor assured me that everything was fine on my end, which left the possibility that Lisa might be facing fertility issues. Starting this topic with her seemed challenging as I didn't want her to see it as an attack or feel like it was her fault. So one night while we were lying in bed, I decided to bring up the subject gently. I took the route of blaming myself. I volunteered to go to the doctor again, even though I already had. Lisa reassured me, insisting that she was sure nothing was wrong and that for some people it just takes time. Wanting to believe her, I decided to be patient. I did some research, and most of the articles mentioned that conception could take years for some couples. I was having doubts in the back of my mind. I chose to ignore them and wanted to be patient. For about a month, things seemed fine, and I tried to maintain a sense of patience. I usually am the one to get up late, and Lisa left early as she had to open the cafe by 6 a.m. I usually got ready and left early enough to stop by the cafe and see her before heading to work. This morning, as I was in my bathroom, I felt that the bin was full and it had to be emptied. I took a bag and started emptying the bin in it. What I found shook me to the core. I found an empty cart of birth control pills. The discovery sent chills down my spine. I took the empty birth control card into the bedroom. I saw my ring on the bedside table. For the first time, I didn't feel like putting it back on. Instead, I took the card in my work bag and finished getting ready. The drive to the cafe was excruciating, my mind racing with all the possible reasons for Lisa's actions. Arriving at the shop, I greeted her as usual, bought a coffee and a muffin, and tried to keep things normal. "Did someone come to the house for a visit? I found some of my notebooks out of place," I asked her. "Not that I know of. Besides, we are the only ones who enter the house. I am here all day, and you are in your office and later here." I left shortly after, got into the car, and tears finally flowed, something I hadn't experienced in years. The entire day at work was miserable, and I didn't know what to do. I researched the name of the birth control online, confirming it was a prescription. So she got it after a doctor prescribed it. Why is she taking pills if she wants a baby? Does she have some medical issue I am not aware of? I had to ask her and get things straight. I decided to leave work early to see her at the cafe. I reached the cafe, but I could not find any spot for parking. As I drove past the cafe to find a parking spot, drove past the backside of the cafe. I saw a guy talking to her. At first, I assumed he was a maintenance worker or someone making deliveries. Then, to my horror, they shared a quick kiss. Lisa quickly walked in and the guy left. I was shocked and was still unable to understand what happened. I kept driving until I got home, where everything suddenly made sense. She did not want to risk getting pregnant with someone else's child. Is that the reason for the pills? It took me an hour to calm my nerves and think about what I wanted now. Confronting Lisa would be useless. She has lied to me about trying to have a baby and the pills. I cannot trust her anymore. Confronting her with infidelity without any proof was useless. So I did what I could. I immediately started looking for a private investigator. I found Roger Clifford, a former law enforcement officer, took my case. "Are you serious about this?" he asked. "I have seen a lot of men back out midway from the investigation. They were too afraid and wanted to avoid the painful results. Although the pain was just delayed, I just need to know who this guy was and how long they have been seeing each other." I responded, "I am not a weak man. I just want justification for my future actions. I don't want to start a war that I will lose." I paid up front and provided all the information needed and walked out needing time to clear my head. I went for a long walk by the time Lisa was home. "Why did you not come by the shop in the evening?" "I guess I am under the weather. I better go and sleep it out." She did not ask anything else for the next 1 week. I avoided her and tried my best to stay at the office. I left early and came back late. Just went to my bed and slept like I just went into a coma. After a week, the investigator called me for a meeting. Roger welcomed me and gave me a glass of Jack Daniel. I gulped it in one go and sat down. He handed me a file. I went through the contents. Jason Martin, Lisa's former classmate. He's the one screwing Lisa. The last time they were together fornicating was at the Riverside Motel. I am sorry, Mike. She is cheating on you. The folder has everything you need for proving her infidelity in the court. I was silent. I was just blank. I did not feel sad or angry. I was just blank. It took a few minutes and I got up. I shook hands with Roger and thanked him. I reached home and waited for Lisa to come home. When Lisa arrived, I was in the kitchen preparing myself to have the difficult conversation. Let's talk. I handed her a cup of coffee and asked her to sit. Let's not have any conversation about the pregnancy. I really am tired and in no mood for it. She sat down reluctantly. We will never talk about the pregnancy. You have already decided against it. Dr. Jackson had prescribed a good pill. I pulled out the empty birth control card from my bag and placed it on the table. She was surprised and looked a bit uncomfortable. It was in the bathroom bin. Since no one else came to the house that belonged to you, I also found that you have been visiting the doctor to avoid the pregnancy. Let me make it a bit clearer for you. I am here only for the truth, and your excuses are useless. I was just worried about my cafe. I did not want kids, she said. So you did not want kids, or you did not want kids with Jason. I sneered. She had her hand on her mouth and gasped. She started crying. You are just gaslighting me, as I am not willing to have kids with you. You are a horrible person. I love you and would never cheat on you. Let me show you what a horrible person looks like. I placed a picture of Lisa naked with Jason in the motel. You see, that is a horrible person. A person who lied to her husband. A person who broke her wedding vow. A person who is cheating on her husband. That is a horrible person. No, that can't be. You spied on me. You tried to bring me down. You are a horrible person. I threw the coffee mug that I had in my hat towards her. I knew it would not hit her, but it was enough to send her the message. I looked her in the eyes and took the coffee mug from her hands. I did not miss it. The second one will also not miss either. She looked back to see the coffee mug hit her picture on the wall. Spill it out now, and I will go easy on you. Lisa tearfully claimed it was a mistake and that the guy Jason was an old friend from high school going through a rough time. She insisted their relationship was never supposed to escalate, but when I asked how long they had been seeing each other, she admitted to a few months, bloody months of infidelity. Angry and frustrated, I slammed my fist on the table. It took me 5 minutes to calm down. All your stuff is in the basement. You will not come near me or my room as long as I don't allow you. Do you understand? She nodded. Next day, I met my lawyer and explained what I wanted to do. For the next 3 days, I kept finding reasons to stay out of the house until my lawyer finished drafting the divorce papers. On Friday, I finally presented her with the papers. She seemed shocked. You were expecting me to endure your sick presence in this house near me. I smiled. We can work through it. A lot of people do. Please give me a chance. I will have your kids. Please don't leave me. You must be kidding me. Have kids with you? I will marry a pig, then have kids with you. Now you listen carefully. I made my demands clear. We sell the cafe and split the proceeds. Lisa resisted. I don't want to sell it. I want it. It's mine. Sure. If you wanted to keep it, reimburse every penny I had invested up front. Since I poured a significant amount of money in that cafe, which would be around 70% of the total cost, including equipment and furniture, you need to pay me and keep the cafe. After dedicating so much to fulfill your dream, only to be betrayed, I want my deal. I made it clear that I wouldn't budge on these terms and walked out of the house. Truth be told, I reached out to one of the workers at the cafe, someone I was familiar with, and asked if he knew about my wife's infidelity. He admitted having suspicions, noticing Jason frequently visiting the store and observing the extra attention Lisa gave him compared to other regulars. He chose not to say anything, understanding it wasn't his place to intervene in our personal matters, and he simply wanted to keep his job. I couldn't fault him. He was just trying to stay out of a mess. The following week, my lawyer received a call from a lawyer supposedly representing Lisa, presenting her terms. I could have everything else if she got to keep the cafe. Despite it being a good offer, I recalled how she has betrayed my trust. I decided that she deserved nothing. In response to her terms, I instructed my lawyer to reject them, prepared to face her in court. On my way home from the office, I braced myself for the upcoming legal battle. The next day, I received a call from my mother asking if I could drop by. She lived nearby, so it wasn't much of a deter. My mom has been living alone since I got married, as my father passed away from a heart attack when I was in college. Despite getting his pension and the house being paid off, it wasn't enough to cover all her bills and groceries every month. I chipped in when I could, knowing that my mom had made sacrifices to ensure I had what I needed, especially during the challenging times after college when I was trying to establish myself. When I arrived at her house, she was on the porch waiting. I sat down with her and moved on. I looked at her. My mother has a traditional perspective. She shook her head, emphasizing that their family fights for marriages and doesn't give up over one obstacle. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I knew that many on my mom's side of the family were stuck in loveless, miserable marriages due to their staunch opposition to divorce, no matter how heinous one partner's actions were to the other. Some were enduring constant abuse, infidelity, and even secret families. Despite their struggles, they maintained an outward appearance of being squeaky clean, God-fearing Christians, which seemed ridiculous to me. I had no intention of becoming like them, and I didn't want to endure such misery. My mom suggested seeking help, recommending couples therapy, or trying to talk and work things out. She mentioned that when she spoke to Lisa, she seemed remorseful about her actions and didn't want a divorce. I rolled my eyes again, convinced that the only thing Lisa cared about was the cafe. To appease my mother, I told her I would think about it, but deep down, I had no intention of letting Lisa off the hook. I had already made it clear to Lisa that I would accept whatever the judge decided in court, but I wasn't going to cave to her demands as I had done so many times before. This time, I was looking out for myself. Last weekend, I got a call from my mom saying she's having computer issues. It's a regular occurrence as she's not very computer savvy and mainly uses it for Facebook and email. Every few months, I have to swing by her place to clean up files and clear out the clutter of pictures she downloads from Facebook. She tends to forget about them until the computer's memory gets too low and starts acting up. So I went over there to clean up the mess, deleting all those unnecessary pictures and files that had piled up over the last few months. Once I freed up enough memory, I did a quick check to ensure everything was running fine. As I opened the web browser, her email popped up, and I noticed email chains from her and Lisa. Now I'm not one to snoop, and if those email chains were from 3 or 4 months ago, I wouldn't have minded, as it was before the divorce was even a thing. However, there were recent ones, even from the day before. This got me wondering why my mom would have any reason to be talking so much to the woman who cheated on her son. I decided to open up the email chain and started scrolling. I went back to the time when Lisa said she started seeing Jason, and I was not prepared for what I saw. Lisa confided in my mom, admitting she'd made a mistake and slept with an old friend. She was afraid I would find out and asked my mom what she should do. And you know what my mom said? She brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal and that it's not uncommon for people in relationships to wander. She even admitted to cheating on someone named Dan once or twice, claiming it was fine because he never found out, and even if he did, he wouldn't have left her. My mom seemed confident that I wouldn't leave Lisa because of how much I had invested in our marriage, both emotionally and financially. To make matters worse, she told my soon-to-be ex-wife to keep the affair a secret and never bring another man into our house. The last line that I read made my blood boil. Enjoy the forbidden fruits of life, just make sure that you don't get caught. My blood was boiling as I couldn't believe my own mother would betray me like this. I kept scrolling through the emails and found one from when I served the lease of the divorce papers. She seemed distraught, asking my mom for advice because I was going to take the cafe from her. My mom promised to talk some sense into me, her first mistake being an assumption that my father would never have left her. Knowing my dad, a family man who didn't tolerate foolishness, I realized he would have pursued a unilateral divorce if he found out about her infidelity. While family was essential to him, he wouldn't let a bad marriage tie him down, and neither would I. Going through more files, I found that my father had filed for a divorce. He just died of a heart attack before reaching the court. My mother was responsible for his passing. I discovered that Lisa was giving my mom money every month, presumably from the cafe. This explained my mom's motivations in the emails. She had chosen money over me. Infuriated, I downloaded the email chain and sent it to my lawyer, asking if it was something we could use. He mentioned it was a little last minute, but he'd see what he could do. It was a confession by Lisa that she was having an affair. The divorce proceedings were only 2 weeks away, and I couldn't wait to be free of this nightmare. As for Lisa, I don't know what's become of her. The judge ordered her to close the shop so that I can put it up for sale. Passing by last week, I noticed the dark windows indicating that at least she had complied with the judge's directive. While I thought I might feel some sympathy if she lost the shop, I find nothing but hatred for her. Even on a human level, it's hard to muster pity for someone who hurt me so deeply. During the courtroom scene when she started crying, I just shook my head. My family from my dad's side has been an enormous help through all of this. They've been incredibly supportive, and some even offered me a room in their houses until I figured things out. However, I prefer being on my own right now. I've asked them to help me search for a home that won't cost me an arm and a leg if they really want to assist. The drama surrounding my divorce was over by now, but there were 2 more chapters that I must deal with. First, I filed a lawsuit on Jason for alienation of affection. I shared the details of his affair with his office, though I did not expect anything from it as Lisa was not a co-worker. Second, I sent the fee to his wife. To my surprise, she was already going to file a divorce, but now she will be filing it on the grounds of adultery. Second, and most importantly, I cut my mother off. I stopped sending her money. I usually do it at the end of every month. When she noticed the absence of funds in her account, she called me. "Where is the money, Mike?" she asked. "What money? You give me money every month. Did you forget?" "Oh no, I did not forget. I just thought since Lisa was paying you, you don't need me to pay you." "No, she is not paying me anything." "Then in that case, you have to figure out how to make Dad's pension work because I was done with you." She tried to argue, but I cut her and told her that she sided with Lisa rather than her own son. She tried to explain that she was just looking out for me and my marriage, not wanting me to go through a bitter divorce at a young age. At this point, her excuses meant nothing to me. I suggested she ask Lisa for money since they were such good friends, a petty jab perhaps, but I didn't care. She claimed she hadn't heard anything from Lisa since the judge's ruling. Too bad, as she wasn't getting anything from me, and I wished her good luck. She got mad at that and called me ungrateful, a despicable son, and said none of her nephews would treat their mother that way. I told her she should ask them for help since they were such good boys. She started pleading with me, trying to play the mother card, but this was not about that. I told her she's not a good person. A good person would not have encouraged my wife to cheat on me. Enjoy the forbidden fruits of life, just make sure that you don't get caught. She now knows that I know about her backstabbing. Jesus said to forgive. I cut her and said, "Go meet him and ask for forgiveness." I explicitly told her not to call me again, and I hung up. However, that wasn't the end of it. The next day, my phone was bombarded with messages from family members on my mother's side demanding to know what was going on. Apparently, my mom had been spreading nasty and false rumors about what happened, telling them that I cut her off because she had become a burden. In response, I sent everyone who messaged or called the email threat. Now half of them are on my side and half are on my mom's side. I've been uninvited from birthdays, weddings, and family barbecues, but I don't care. That side of my family is toxic, and I don't want to be around them anyway. The only reason I tolerated them was because of my mother. Now that I've gone no contact with her, I don't have to deal with them anymore. I went through my therapy, and now I am in a much better mood. I got myself 2 large German Shepherds as company. Got them from the adoption center. They are quite a handful. They were to be euthanized in a few days if I had not adopted them. I was a bit skeptical about them, but they turned out to be amazing. The best part of the day is when I come back home. I get loads of kisses and licks. I guess I found unconditional love.